let's talk about some of the key matchups for this Oklahoma-Tennessee game. A lot of matchups that I look at, and I think that, man, it feels like a very similar matchup to what we saw last week. And for Oklahoma fans, that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. It's their best against our best, and that is offense against defense, starting off with Tennessee's explosive offense. It is a very good offense. It's an offense that we know is going to be good with Josh Heupel at the helm. It's an offense that's very, very tough to slow down, very tough to stop, because as they entered into Week 10, they're one of the most dangerous offenses in the nation, not just in the SEC, but in the nation. They were second nationally in scoring, 45.6 points per game, third in total offense, 510 yards per game, and third in passing offense, 321 yards per game. Those are some really good stats. So this is a very good offense, an offense that knows how to put up points, and they've done that so far against other pretty good defenses. But I will say that I think that Oklahoma will be the best defense that Tennessee has seen all season long. So that is definitely something to throw out there, which is why I like this matchup. I think as an Oklahoma fan, you should like this matchup, that your team is going to be the best defense that this team has seen, which means you're going to throw a lot of new things out at Tennessee. Tennessee's also going to throw a lot of new things out at the Oklahoma defense, so you have to throw that in there as well. Joey Aguilar, he's been exceptional all season long and really has been the dark horse player really across the entire country. He's thrown for over 2,000 yards, 18 touchdowns. Excuse me. Got a dry throat. It's the hotels, I swear. And then I always forget to get a bottle of water or something to bring in with me. But anyways, 18 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions, while completing 65.9% of his passes. Pretty solid in the SEC. He's passed for over 200 yards in 32 of his Division I starts, which is the longest active streak in the FBS. Probably the most impressive stat that I saw was that, I guess most impressive as of recent, as of what it pertains to for this week, Aguilar torched Kentucky for 396 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. That's the 13th highest single total in Tennessee history, which, if you know Tennessee here in like recent history, that's very impressive. Even going back further, of course, you know that Manning played there, Peyton Manning played there. So very, very impressive. 396 yards and 3 touchdowns last week against Kentucky. I know it's just against Kentucky, but still very impressive. They've also got Chris Brazzell. He's emerged as one of the nation's best wide receivers. If you don't know who he is, you're going to learn who he is. He's going to be used a lot on Saturday. One of the most elite receiving threats in the nation. 740 yards, 8 touchdowns on the season on 43 catches. And it's not just him and what he's able to do, but it's the chemistry between him and Joey Aguilar that really has me a little concerned about what this secondary has coming at them and how full their hands are going to be here with this Tennessee offense. Ultimately, I think a lot of the deep balls, that's going to go to Brazzell. I think he's going to be very lethal in the deep game. So if they're able to go over the top, they're going to try. They're going to try to cheat that defense up and get that defense keeping them honest with the run game and try to go up over the top. And so, yeah, he's had multiple 47 to 50 yard, right in that 50 yard range connections with Aguilar against Kentucky alone. He had several. They've also got Deshaun Bishop, who adds some balance. I don't know exactly what the injury report is for Tennessee, and I didn't look into that leading into this. So that could change some of our minds as well. I know talking last night about Tennessee on a Tennessee channel, I was over on Tennessee at the Voice of College Football talking with those guys over there. Apparently they've got some injury problems in their secondary, which is something good to hear for Oklahoma. But anyways, going back to their offense, Deshaun Bishop keeps this offense very balanced with 652 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns on 91 carries on the season. So that explosive offense is definitely one for the Oklahoma Sooners to pay attention to. Then going against the key matchup, going against Oklahoma's defense, a stifling defense, and an electric defense, a very dominant defense, number 5 overall defense in the nation, a top 5 defense is what I meant. Number 5 in overall and scoring defense. Thanks a lot to Ole Miss, kind of inflating that scoring total just a little bit. But the Oklahoma Sooners, they counter the Tennessee Volunteers in many ways here because of their great defense. One of the best defenses that we've seen at Oklahoma in a very long time. And it's definitely the best defense that Brent Venables has had. He finally has a room full of his guys, completely his guys. They rank fifth nationally in scoring defense, only allowing 12.5 points per game. That number went up from, I think, 9.4 from a week ago. Sixth in total defense, 240 yards. That number went up a lot from a week ago. 10th in pass defense, so still a very good pass defense at 155.4 yards per game. And sixth in rush defense. Again, all these numbers really got pushed up quite a bit because of what Ole Miss did to Oklahoma. And that's where some of the concern comes for the Oklahoma Sooners, is that this defense has not played an offense as good as Ole Miss until Ole Miss came to Norman. And they kind of got exposed with a lot of pre-snap motions. I think that threw Oklahoma off a lot of kind of trickery over on the offense. And what I mean by that is I think you saw a couple of times where they had that dual quarterback formation where they had both Simmons and Chambliss back there in the backfield. You're not going to see anything like that against Tennessee, but you will have plenty of that pre-snap movement. And can the defense adapt, and can they get going on this on this Tennessee offense a little bit quicker? That's what you're going to need. They're also second nationally at 3.6 sacks per game, lead the nation just dominate the nation. I don't have that stat in front of me, but for tackles for loss, they absolutely dominate by double digits, tackles for a loss. So it's a defense that gets into the backfield. It's a defense that loves to stop offenses in their tracks. However, like I mentioned, it was very much inflated against weaker competition before that Ole Miss loss. I think your losses to Ole Miss and Texas inflate those numbers a little bit, or they I guess deflate those numbers a little bit is how I should be saying that with a defense. But ultimately, in those two games alone, the Sooners, so just between Texas and Ole Miss in their two losses, they averaged about 28.5 points per game. And then, of course, going back to Ole Miss, who had the best offensive performance against this defense all season long. And you know what? I should say that 28.5 is probably inflated a little bit because of the punt return. And so I don't think you can count that against this defense at all. I know you can't count that against the defense. But anyways, Ole Miss, they were able to throw for over 300 yards last week against this secondary, kind of showing some vulnerabilities in this secondary. And of course, with any team, if you're paying attention to those, then I think if Tennessee was paying attention to those vulnerabilities, it will bleed into this week, which gives some concern for the Oklahoma Sooners going into the matchup. Now going on to some of Mateer's struggles. Again, I mentioned that there are some injuries over in that Tennessee secondary, and they've had some issues throughout this season. So through 7 games, John Mateer's completed 63.6% of his passes, just under 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Not a good touchdown to interception ratio. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, no more interceptions for John Mateer. You can't throw another one all season. With 6 interceptions, you can't afford it. It looks terrible for your team, and you're hurting your team with every interception that you throw with any kind of turnover. His rushing numbers, they've kind of cratered, but that's mainly from his injury. Ever since his injury, I don't think they've really tried to run him as often. But when he does run, he looks as if his legs are injured. And I know a lot of people are speculating that maybe he had some kind of ankle injury or knee injury, and I don't think that's the case, but it sure does look that way. It sure does feel like John Mateer's legs have been injured as well, because he just doesn't look the same. He doesn't look the same as what he once was before that thumb injury, before that thumb surgery. So very interested to see how he bounces back and does a little bit better with his legs. It would be nice there. I think since the injury, let's see here, going down through my notes. Yeah, so since the injury, Mateer, his completion percentage, it's dropped tremendously, very much. It's dropped a lot. His yards per attempt have declined, and then, like I mentioned a moment ago, also running far less attempts and far less effectively. So the Sooners ranked 93rd nationally in sacks allowed per conference game. So per conference game, they're allowing 3.2 sacks per game in SEC play. Sorry, that's not right. They're 93rd nationally in sacks allowed per game. I think that's per game. And then Tennessee, my notes are a little shaky there, but anyways, Tennessee pass rushers, they're getting to about 3.2 sacks per game in SEC play alone. So Oklahoma will have to stand tall on the offensive line and protect John Mateer. That's going to be one. But Tennessee's secondary, that's what I want to get into, because their secondary, however, it kind of presents a little bit of an opportunity for John Mateer, for him to bounce back. We've seen his numbers decline a lot, and this is an opportunity for John Mateer to get back into his groove. He's not been seeing the field very clearly, and this is a chance for him to do it. Right now, the Vols rank 124th in passing defense at 266.9 yards allowed per game, and 112th in scoring defense at 30.9 points per game. They're missing their All-American cornerback, Jermod McCoy, who tore his ACL, and also Colton Hood. His status is kind of uncertain. We don't know where he's going to be, but apparently he injured himself against Kentucky during halftime warmups. So coming out before the third quarter, ended up injuring himself there. Tennessee's not the best defense. I think you've got a lot of opportunities on the ground. You've also got a lot of opportunities through the secondary, who has their own issues. And they've got the injuries that you can exploit. You can get your quarterback back on track. So I think that would be very crucial for Oklahoma and for John Mateer getting back into this game. Tennessee allowed Kentucky's quarterback, Cutter Boley, they allowed him to throw 5 touchdown passes, something that Kentucky hasn't done all season long against any conference opponent or any power opponent. And so they haven't even done that. I didn't look through the entirety of last year, but they hadn't done that much. I don't think they did that at all last year either against a conference opponent or any Power 4 opponent for that matter. So this secondary is definitely one that Oklahoma could take advantage of, and John Mateer could get back on track with, because the secondary, for one, banged up, and also allowing a lot of gaps and a lot of openings for John Mateer to get back into it.